Hey guys, this is Eddie Ift. We are about to start the episode of the WODcast podcast. And I went north again. Went up to San Francisco. I was performing in the South Bay, Sunnyvale, and I headed to, north of San Francisco. Had to go over the bridge, got some tickets. Don't worry, I'm paying them. Because you got to have that, pass to go over the Golden Gate Bridge, and I didn't have it. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? So they just send you a bill in the mail, which is kind of cool. I was going up there last week. We had Kelly Starrett. This week we have none other than another OG of the CrossFit world, the former founder of CrossFit Endurance, Brian MacKenzie, who now has Power Speed Endurance. If you go to powerspeedendurance.com, and after you listen to this episode, you'll realize Brian is always at the forefront of cutting edge, I'm not going to call them hacks. I'm going to call them, the guy's just an expert when it comes to training and nutrition, sleep, breath work. And right now he's working a lot on breath work. He helped me a lot. I have some problems and issues, and Brian's trying to fix them for me. So, figure after 40 some years, it's about time. But Brian is just a wealth of knowledge, and it was really good getting to go hang at his house. And, Brian, Kelly, all these guys, one of the greatest things of doing this show is hanging out with guys that are a lot like me. Brian's, he's always searching for, ways to get better, ways to improve, ways to help people. He's a dog guy. He's got a couple big dogs hanging out there. He mountain bikes. He runs. He's into surfing. He's a good dude. We didn't get into, his accident that happened, which I would have liked to talk to him about. He, hurt his spine earlier this year, and maybe I'll get him on another episode to talk about that. But just, it's so good. And if you get the chance, hopefully you'll listen to the episode, and then you're going to want to check out powerspeedendurance.com. And if anything, get into the breathing, try it out, test it out. I have something coming up where, I'm going to have to hold my breath for a long time. And, this is going to help, but also it's going to help me with some, be more fat adaptive and, improve my aerobic capacity, which we can all use, and anyone in CrossFit can use it. So check it out. He's got clinics, he's got online courses, he's got training courses, and what else is going on? We've got a couple sponsors today. We've got For Athletics, and also we have a new one, Native, which is really interesting, which I'll talk about later in the show. And get your leggings, guys. Remember I told you about the For Athletics leggings. You got to get them if you want to see me doing the open workouts. I'm going to do the over 60 women's scale division. I'm going to try to sign up for the CrossFit Games as an over 60 woman, because that's how I see myself. And I know they're letting transgenders in, and I'm not trying to mock this at all, but I really want to compete as an over 60 woman and see how I can do. I have a feeling I'll get crushed even in that division. Maybe not in the scaled division. I might be able to win that. But that's how I see myself. I don't know how you guys see me. You probably see me like that too. But I'm signing up for the Open. It's coming up soon. And I saw CrossFit just came out with a whole new, they're going to be certifying competitions. Another certification. I wonder how long till they certify podcasts. Going to have to pay them to be certified to, do a proper podcast. Anyway, what else is going on? I am touring. As I record this, I'm sitting in my home in California, but I'm about to get on a plane tonight to go to Australia for the Adelaide Fringe Festival. It's this amazing festival over in Australia. It's my favorite comedy festival. People from all over Australia are actually going to Adelaide now for their month-long Fringe Festival, which has everything from comedy to music to there's all kinds of concerts that they have, and it's just a really fun time of the year. They got wine festivals and drink. The whole month of mid-February to mid-March, this town just goes nuts festivaling, if that's a word. And then they hibernate for 11 months. and then they come back out. So if you're in Australia, get a plane ticket down there. If you live in Adelaide, just, walk on over. I thought I was at the Umbrella Revolution, but I'm actually in the Factory Theater in the Garden of Unearthly Delights. And I am doing 29 nights. I can tell you this, every weekend show sells out. So if you want to assure yourself a ticket, either buy them right now or get yourself in on like a Wednesday is the most available. Thursday starts to get pretty crowded, almost sold out. Friday sold out, Saturday sold out, Sunday's usually sold out. And then I don't do shows on Mondays. And then Tuesdays is Tight Ass Tuesday. So those sell well too, because I think it's a cheaper ticket on Tuesdays. But I'll be honest with you. I like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday audience is the best. Because Friday and Saturday, it's just the hard partying, type. The people that just are out for a party, not the people that like comedy. So come check out my show. I'll be working out CrossFit Mode with James Newberry and doing some interviews over there. If you guys want to throw me some ideas, I'm hopefully going to get Big Bobby D, a girl that I believe she placed pretty well in the CrossFit Games, has won the Masters division, I believe. Amanda Allen, we're trying to get her, and we will have James on. So should be fun. I'm going to be all over Australia. I'm going to Launceston, which is down in Tasmania. I'm doing the Launceston Comedy Festival. And then I'm headed up to do the Comedy Store in Sydney. And I'll be surfing everywhere I can go and doing some workouts. And I'm training for that, hopefully. Still trying to do that 68-mile across the mountains. The Brokeback Mountain. I call it Brokeback Mountain. It's Backbone Trail. The Backbone Trail run, the 68 miles in 24 hours. So I was talking to a couple of you doing it with me to see how my training's going. If I can get myself up to like some good 30-mile hikes, I'll do it. But if I can't, no way. Don't want to get hurt. It's not worth it. But we're probably going to raise money for the firefighters. There's some funds that do well helping firefighters who have been hurt in the line of duty. And I can't be thankful enough to the firefighters that helped save my town and neighborhood and all the great stuff they did. So we'll probably be hitting you up asking for donations to watch me crush myself over 24 hours. And let's see. If you want to see me, dates coming up. After Australia, I get back in April. I'll be in St. Louis. You can check me out at St. Louis Funny Bone. Get your tickets at eddyift.com. After that, I'm in Las Vegas. Again, tickets at eddyift.com. Always just check out eddyift.com. May is when I'm headed to St. Louis. I'm sorry. April, I'm in Edmonton. Those are important dates. 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. I'll be in the comic strip in Edmonton. And then I go to Las Vegas. Then I go to St. Louis. Then I go to, I'll be in Calgary, Canada in June. How about that? And just a whole bunch of places coming up. Get your tickets. Hyenas in Dallas. Everything's at eddyift.com. And now I think I got to stop blabbering and start packing because I got to get on a plane tonight. And 15 hours on a plane. Ooh, that's good for your legs. But hope you enjoy this episode. I'll be doing some of my breathing techniques on the plane. It's probably not good, breathing straight oxygen. And who knows? I don't know. Does anybody know anything? Yes, Brian MacKenzie does. So enjoy this episode with him. Welcome to the WODcast podcast. I am your host, Eddie Ift. I am again up in San Francisco. Again, drove to do you call this the North Bay, Brian?
This is North Bay, yeah.
Yeah. I'm up in the North Bay again. A couple of days ago, I came up here to see Kelly Starrett, an OG of CrossFit, the mobility master himself, the guru. And now I am with Brian MacKenzie, good friend, again, a guy that I could sit and talk with for 12 hours. We should probably just go to Hawaii together and just podcast like for 10 days straight and have all our buddies over there on. It'd be so much fun. But Kelly Starrett did it 2 days ago, and he told me he was going to come over, and he's not here. he had to go to water polo. So I have Brian MacKenzie.
He gets in deeper than anybody I know. Like he'll overcommit to more. And the only people who don't suffer the consequences of that are his family.
Yeah,
which is actually a rather endearing thing.
The way it's supposed to be.
It is.
So when I was younger, I had a group of friends, and I used to say there were 3 types of people.
Yep.
When you make plans with them, there's people first committal. There's double bookers, and then there's best offers. So there's a friend that you go, hey, you want to do this next week? And they're like, yeah, call me later in the week, because they want to see if they've got something better. Then there's your friend who's like Kelly, who says, yes, 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 I'll do everything. And I'm one of those. And I try to do it all. I'm like, I'll be there. And then I show up, and halfway through, I'm like, I got to go. And I run across here. But then I end up making everybody unhappy, because they're like, he was late. He didn't do this. He didn't finish the deal. But the worst people, I believe, are the first committals. And I had a friend named Chip that I'd be like, hey, Chip, it's my wedding in June. Can you be there and be my best man? And he'd be like, oh, June what? And I'd be like, June 6th. He's like, I promised my cousin that I would help him build a birdhouse that day. And I'm like, yeah, that's a birdhouse. This is my wedding. And he's like, yeah, but I committed. And I hate the first committals.
Yeah.
I drop that shit. So
as frustrating as it can get, I think it's just a lesson to be learned. And like, who is the person? Who are they? And like, how does it affect you?
True. It is.
You know, like, so like with Kelly, it's like, I know his family comes first, and I know that is paramount. And like I don't know anybody that can turn and burn on a flight going somewhere, traveling harder than that man. He will literally go to New York City in one day.
Yeah,
like, he'll literally fly in on a red eye.
I don't know if I
go
can do
in,
that.
work, and then hop on a flight out and get back home, because he wants to be back with his family, and that's awesome, man.
I'm like that now with the family too. When I get off, my shows are usually last show Sunday night or Saturday night, and I get on the earliest flight the next day to get home, thinking then I have the whole day to spend with my daughter. However, I get home and I'm a zombie, and my daughter's like, come on, Dad. And I'm like, Daddy can't move. Daddy, no fun.
Yeah.
It's there is something to it. And when I was younger, I would call my sister, and she had a bunch of kids, and we were best friends growing up. And I'd call her, and she'd be like, as soon as one of her kids asked for something, and I'd hear them in the background, she's like, I got to go. The kids need me. And I used to be like, fuck your kids, and they're my nieces and nephews, and I love them.
Wow.
But I'm like they need to have patience, and your uncle, their uncle and your mom are talking, and they need to. And now that I have a kid, I realize why, because I'll be with my kid and I'll be talking to someone really important, and I'll go, I got to go. My kid needs me.
Yeah.
And it's first thing. Like she's outside, wants me to see the new hat she made. I've got to go. And I get it. They do, especially when they're young, because you're making a human.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I've seen. I mean, I can only equate this to my dogs.
And it's very similar.
Your dogs are in your car right now.
Yeah.
So Eddie brings his dogs everywhere. I totally forgot about that. I've got 2 dogs too, but at any rate, that's the only way I have of understanding that. But I actually, from the time I spend with my sister, which is usually every week, who has 4 kids, my brother's got 2 kids, my best friend Kelly's got 2 kids, everybody's got kids, and I've watched from people who have been like animal owners into like kid owners. I mean, I was there. I used to swing Kelly's first kid in a laundry basket, like a kettlebell. She was that big at the time, right? Tiny, and she's now 13. Like, it's just weird.
It's weird.
It's really weird, but it's really cool to see as well. And I think that priority wise, those who I respect it. I respect it. Like, I'm like, I get it. Like, I get why he can't commit. Like, there's things he overcommits to, even with me all the time. Like, I get it, and I'm cool with it. It's totally fine. I don't have to I empathize for him.
Yeah.
Like legitimately. And I don't have to and I can have some sympathy towards it, which means I don't have to fucking go, well, fuck him. Like,
does he get out here? Brian lives, and Kelly in the same area pretty much. And it's up here in these beautiful mountains in Marin County and north of San Francisco. And I just driving up here, it's kind of similar to where I live. And I'm looking up at the mountains like, oh my God, I wish I brought my bike and I'd ride up through these mountains or go for a run up there. Do you and Kelly ever get out here and
we do
tear it up?
At least once a week if it's not pissing rain.
Yeah.
Just, this winter it has been, but we probably train at this point 2 or 3 days a week together.
And when you say train, what kind of stuff are you guys
We're
doing?
either going mountain biking, we're either on the bikes here, or we're at the gym doing some strength and conditioning work.
And what gym do you go down to his gym?
I'll either go to his gym down in San Francisco or I'm at his house.
Okay.
Or he comes here.
Yeah, it was funny. We did the show 2 days ago and we never talked about CrossFit San Francisco that much, other than that I think it was the greatest gym when it was out in the parking lot. It's my favorite gym. Well, there's a couple. I love CrossFit Malibu.
Yeah.
Because it's it looks like the MASH scene. And then you've got, I like Raw in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Because it's my hometown.
Those guys, I know those guys.
They're great guys.
Yeah.
And just their gym just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they've got the soccer field. And then I loved Kelly's parking lot. I've talked about this many times on the show. I was in Norway, I believe, or maybe Denmark. I can't remember because I toured there together. And I go to find a CrossFit one day to work out. And it was in a decent neighborhood, but I started getting off into a bad neighborhood. And I find this Globo gym that says it's got CrossFit. And I'm like, oh, I guess it's inside. So I walk in, I go to the counter and I said, hey, where's your CrossFit gym? And the woman points across a junkyard where there's a train tracks. And she's like, it's over there. And I'm like, okay. So I walk over and it's got loading docks. There was no real way in. And I get in the gym. And it's this abandoned building that they've turned into a CrossFit. Inside, it's a really cool CrossFit.
Yeah.
And there's no class going on. Just these fucking giants all working out with the Rocky soundtrack playing.
Wow.
Rocky 4 soundtrack.
This is in Norway?
In Norway.
Dude.
And I was just and I didn't say anything to anyone. I just started working out. And no one said a word to me, and I left. There was no yeah, it was just this weird, I just was looking around, does anybody wonder who this fucking American guy is?
Yeah.
They didn't care. They were just into their thing.
Do you want anything to drink?
I will have a La Croix, La Croix. Brian's grabbed me a La Croix. How would you like to be one of the original owners of La Croix? How much money they're making? We have water and we put some bubbles in it. And then we put a little essence of some flavor and we charge what you'd pay for a beer. And they're selling 10 million of these. I was just saying, wouldn't you love to be one of the owners of this company?
Oh, dude.
How much money they've made?
Dude, crushed. And what an opportunity they created for so many other people, for so many other companies too, because how many brands now are doing this?
Yeah.
So many.
And it's so good too, because it's getting people off the shit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So,
So I call Brian all the time like I do. I've got my council of experts and I talk about what's wrong with me. And if you don't know Brian, and you're in this, I don't want to say you're an idiot, but he's just been around since the beginning of CrossFit. He's
early, not beginning.
Really early. I mean,
07.
I was introduced to you by Kenny Kane.
Yeah, actually 06.
Who said to me, I was doing triathlons at the time, I think. And I said, I want to get stronger and not do this. And he's like, you got to check out this guy, Brian MacKenzie. He's got some really cool shit going on. He's down in Newport. Long story short, you've been through everything. And you find, I say you find things before everyone else does. You introduced me to Wim Hof. Mm-hmm. You're always there before anyone else. I don't know what dark web you're hanging out on, but you know it before it happens. Like, you know it before it pops. All of a sudden, everybody starts going down the road you went down before. You're the predecessor. So I always talk to Brian about how and there's probably many of you out there that are like me. You played power sports growing up, football.
No football.
No football?
I was a short course sprinter, swimmer.
Yeah, but I'm saying
water polo.
I'm saying me and the listeners. There's a lot of guys that are like I was a sprinter. I can't go more than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Even at 6 seconds. Like I was better indoor.
Yeah.
So 6 seconds is my best. And then it's over.
Yeah.
And so CrossFit's probably not the best sport for me. And endurance isn't so bad either because I can just hang out there and just endure the pain. It's that middle distance which makes a great CrossFitter. The guys that are like 400, 800 runners that can really just push through in 3 rounds of something. I'm good at 1 round, 2 rounds I start dying, 3 rounds I'm lying on the ground, breathing, asking people for help, seeing if they'll get an ambulance. And I think there's a lot of people out there, and I've been trying to figure it out, and I've always just assumed, that I was short twitch muscle fiber or something. Couldn't figure it out. Or fast twitch, I'm sorry. I don't know the physiology of it because I'm an idiot. I'm a comedian. I'm not a scientist. So I've talked to Brian about it, and recently I started getting into heart rate monitoring and thinking, am I all anaerobic and don't have any aerobic capacity? So I came up here to his place, and he's got a little pain cave out there where he put me through a little workout that wasn't bad at all, but he can explain more than anything what he was doing because he hooked me up. I looked like Bane from Batman.
Well, there should be video of it.
Yeah, and I'll show the video on the Facebook and the Instagram, which go to our Instagram because we're trying to build it since it was kidnapped. Oh my God. It was taken over and became a new Instagram. So if you're following our old WODcast, go back on and follow the WODcast podcast at WODcast podcast on Instagram because the old one no longer exists as WODcast podcast. But tell me, why did you hook me up to that? And I've been following you forever.
So I appreciate the intro. I'm really curious about stuff, and I guess you could call me a creative. I consider largely what I do kind of an art form in a large degree in creating things. And because I like to look at things, like I'll immerse myself in something to understand it, like go take Wim Hof, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I introduced you to that, but like I got involved in that to understand it. Mm-hmm. I'm not a methods guy. Mm-hmm. I'm not a bandwagon guy. Like the moment it becomes bandwagony, you're going to see me start to disappear. So hence, and all, like, I think Wim has played probably one of the most important parts in breath work as we understand it today. But he's got a method, right? And methods are many. And what he's done is just a recreation of something that was done thousands of years ago. Right. Legitimately.
It's like
you can go get a book called The Light on Pranayama.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And you will literally see breathing patterns that they have set up in there that are mimicking very similar things.
The pranayama yoga instructors, isn't it? What does pranayama mean?
Pranayama is more... So pranayama basically means life force. In Sanskrit, it's this very esoteric language and lifestyle, and life force and kind of control. But what it also means is life force is actually breath. That is what breath is, right? So it's breath, or we have energy. So prana is energy and control. And so literally pranayama means energy control. So breath control.
You had me look at, you had me download an app once. I think it was called Apnea Trainer.
Uh-huh.
And I used that for so many things. I started doing the box breathing, the pranayama breathing.
Yeah, we've actually got an app now with PSE, so you can actually plug in everything and do all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can plug it all in. And
what is the app?
It's Power Speed Endurance.
Okay.
Yeah, the app is under Power Speed Endurance. You can download that. You're going to need a login, so like a subscription, but that'll actually get you into a lot of the stuff and the training that we're doing, but it also has the breath timer on the app.
Oh, that's
so
great.
You can input all the breathing protocols that you get.
That's amazing, because I've used that in so many different ways, from like dealing with anxiety, dealing with, trying to come down at night after shows and trying to get to sleep. Just tons and tons of things, like improving my immunity. So many things.
You want to control your immune system? Better breathe through your nose and control the breathing. You can. That's how you're going to first phase, other than your skin, of your immune system. That's how it operates. Like there's no immune system building through breathing shit through your mouth.
Okay, so let's get into that, because do
you want to get into that, or do you want to start with what we did?
Let's get into the nasal breathing first, because we did it.
We can segue it in here.
And I've been following your Instagram and all your stuff, and just taking little bits of it in and going, oh, and I had read, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am, but I saw something about the reason you're taking these like nasal breaths and exhaling is because, in pranayama breathing, or in the box breathing, the breath in is deep, and then the hold is the same amount of time. Then the exhale's longer, because apparently.
Well, that's just a different cadence, a different pranayama, right?
Okay.
Like so like a 1-1-2-1. So a box breathing set is a 1-1-1-1. So if I'm doing 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold.
Right.
So
I'd heard that first. I heard that first from Mark Devine, who's Navy SEAL.
We literally
instructor.
just did his podcast again. 2 days ago.
Yeah, he was the first to tell me about the box, and then when I went on that app, I saw the one with the cadence, which is the longer exhale.
Yes.
And I read something that said the exhale is where your body is getting the oxygen or something. This is where I could be wrong.
That's where you're controlling how you're using oxygen.
Okay.
You could kind of say that. Like that's not total absolute truth, but it is to a large degree, because here's how the body works. So you've got this iron atom. So we've got lots of them, billions, if not trillions of them, right? Billions, in the billions.
Billions and billions.
So you've got billions of iron atoms, right, in your body. And these come inside of a red blood cell. So your red blood cell is red because of iron. Okay. And hemoglobin is the protein molecule that is responsible for magnetizing an oxygen molecule to an iron molecule. And so the red blood cell transports oxygen around. So you can measure that by looking at a pulse oximeter, right? And a pulse oximeter goes on the index finger, and it sends light into the finger, and it picks up what's going on, and it tells you how much oxygen saturation.
That's the thing that everybody's wearing in the hospital when they're...
You got it, right? And those are pretty good. But they're not absolutely totally accurate, especially when you start to get higher heart rate. You start to get faster heart rates, things like that, right? But they're nonetheless still a great tool. I think that,
and I think I heard Wim talk about that, where he said when they make them hyperventilate and get all that oxygen into their bloodstream, that when
that's just into the red blood cell,
right? But that, if they had that monitor on, it would look like they're going to die.
It says, so what it'll do, and I've done this, is it'll say 100%. It'll go up to 100%.
You're right.
Okay. Wim believes it goes higher than 100%, meaning that there's just way more oxygen on there, regardless of whether that may be right or not.
Yeah.
is moot. Okay. Because what that means in physiology is that at 100%, your oxygen actually is not available in the actual bloodstream. It's just in the red blood. So you've got 100% O2 saturation going on. You want to actually be at about 98 to 96%.
Okay.
That means you're actually offloading oxygen into the bloodstream, to the tissue, to the organs, so that the oxygen is actually being used.
Okay.
So the mitochondria are actually now using, so your mitochondria are the batteries, the powerhouses of the cells. They're actually using that up and creating glucose via or they're using glucose, or they're using fat with oxygen in order to actually produce energy. And so this is what we did today, right?
Okay.
And so we can actually see where you're burning carbohydrate or where you're burning fat.
Okay, so let's get to
going
before
into
you do it,
nasal breathing.
Nasal breathing.
And why carbon dioxide is so important is we described how you get all that oxygen into the red blood cell via hemoglobin. So if you've got low hemoglobin, you've got a fucking problem. Okay. That means you're not actually getting enough oxygen onto things. And there could be a number of reasons that that's going on, a lot of which are physiological ramifications, meaning you're very unfit. You don't take care of yourself, a lot of shit going on, right? Don't have proper dosing of stress. So hormesis isn't a part of your life, which is where the response of, that stress inoculation. It's like you take bacteria and you introduce antibiotics and the bacteria only get stronger, right? That's hormesis.
Okay.
The simple version. That said, when oxygen attaches via hemoglobin, so you get that to attach to the red blood cell, you need to offload that. And the only way that offloads and becomes bioavailable or usable is when the environment becomes acidic. That acid is carbonic acid or CO2. That's what CO2 is in the blood. So when CO2 enters the bloodstream this is the process of work, right? So when energy happens, so when work happens through mitochondria, the byproduct of that, or the layman's, kind of the basic version of that is the exhaust of that would be carbon dioxide, water, and energy.
Okay.
That's what you get when mitochondria produce energy.
So that's when you're acidic?
So this is how the exhaust of that work gets kicked off, right? CO2 kicks off, but then it enters the bloodstream.
Right.
Its way of exiting is through respiration, right?
Okay.
So I blow out.
Right.
That's mostly carbon dioxide.
And that's how we release our lactic acid too, is it not?
No. Lactate is actually a fuel source that the body practically pretty much would prefer to use. Unfortunately, it's the beginning stage. It's a process that's not long term,
right,
in the body. So it's not bad. It's actually a really good thing. Lactic acid is not responsible for pain. It's not responsible for it's just the byproduct of what's going on, and that's a whole nother story. Okay. But that still involves some oxygen to some degree. Okay. Oxygen's still a part of that. You're not fully anaerobic when you're at your lactate or anaerobic threshold. You're still using some O2 at that point. So this is where Brooks figured out lactate shuttle. And he's a researcher, PhD out at Cal, who discovered the lactate shuttle, which was our fourth energy pathway. Because we used to say there were three: your phosphagen, your glycolytic, and your oxidative. There's probably going to be 20.
Way more. Yeah.
Like when it's all said and done, more than likely there's going to be many, right? There's many processes that are occurring, and we're going to just learn more and more. It's getting stuck on the fact that, we figured something out. No, we haven't figured shit out. Yeah. We still don't know shit. And so Andy Galpin would sit here in the conversation when we said, Eddie's probably just fast twitch muscle fiber. He's laughing at that. He's that's not fucking, you have no idea what that means, what it says. And anybody who says you're predominantly fast twitch fiber doesn't understand muscle fiber type. And this has a lot to do with why the endurance community has had a lot of misnomers and what they've produce, because they think they're all slow twitch, and that's not true at all. Yeah. And anyway, back out of that, come back to CO2 and carbon dioxide. You have to have a specific amount of carbon dioxide in the blood in order to get the red blood cell to release the oxygen and make it bioavailable. So it doesn't matter how much air you get in. Right? I mean, sure, it does at specific points when we're working and doing things, but literally it comes down to, so check this out. And we've looked at this. Like, I can take a nasal breath in, right? And I can take a mouth breath in. The only difference is I can go faster. I can get more air in quicker through the mouth. But the inevitability is I'm only absorbing so much O2 regardless in each situation.
Is it the same amount?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's not real different.
Okay. So why the nasal breath?
Here's the difference. The exhale. how much CO2 I let off determines what I'm actually going to be burning metabolically.
Okay.
So how I breathe determines what it is I'm actually using as a fuel source. Now, this has some
and you're saying
this has
you're saying glycogen or fat.
I'm saying carbohydrate or fat. Yeah. Okay. Now, this isn't entirely true because there's a difference between cellular respiration, which is what we're talking about in terms of work, mitochondria going to work, and actual respiration. So when my cells are working, my mitochondria are working, that's not me breathing. But the byproduct of cellular respiration is the inevitability of what I'm offloading, because that CO2 in my blood really only has two processes of getting rid of that CO2. And it's through my kidneys or it's through my breath. And the fastest fucking way is breathing. That's why your breathing goes up when you work out. Okay. It's a byproduct of that. But, and we've looked at this, all right? So if I'm sitting still and I actually breathe through my nose, and I just sit there and breathe through my nose, I am typically, and I haven't seen this any differently, I'm burning fat. My O2 levels, the air I'm bringing in, sits higher, much higher than the CO2 levels that are going out. Okay? So I'm actually keeping some of that CO2, and this is where CO2 tolerance, and we can get into this in a minute here in a minute. If my CO2 tolerance levels are off, I actually breathe more, right? So if I'm a poor responder, if I'm a high stress person, I can guarantee you, and this is what we've been seeing, and we're getting research to start to look at this, is you actually have, there is research that confirms that people who are high anxiety have very low CO2 tolerance levels.
Sorry to interrupt this amazing interview, but I want to talk to you about one of our sponsors, and that is For Athletics. If you've ordered your WODcast leggings, or if you haven't, the URL is on our Instagram account and our Twitter account. And get your leggings now if you want to be part of the Open, having me, always said 10 pairs, and Eddie is doing the Open. I'll be over 60 women's division. You got it. Scaled. But get some tights anyways. Leggings. I shouldn't call them tights, although I like to call them tights, and that's what they are, and I like them. I love them. Used to wear them when I ran track all the time. That's right. I ran track in high school. Did you hear that? Yeah, I said it. Well, I'm going to tell you this. I still wear especially how cold this winter has been, and they're good for other things too. Even if you need compression. And they look good, especially on women. I said it. For Athletics is where you want to go too. They're 100% USA made premium leggings. That's right. Think Lululemon, but think better. And let me tell you, For Athletics, they have a one-stop shop for gym owners. They have a co-branding platform. Basically, what they do is you're going to go get their best-selling ones, the Rise Up High Waist 7/8 Omni one. That's right. Rise Up High Waist 7/8 Omni. And here's what they'll do. They'll put your brand, your logo, your name on their leggings. Pretty easy. It's a one-shop stop for your gym. If you own a gym, this is the best thing you can do. Get all your members to be wearing these, and then they look good. They go out, they're wearing it with your name, and people go, oh, you know what? Where are they from? Oh, they're from CrossFit Boogly Boo. I want to look like that. So I guess I'm going to Google CrossFit Boogly Boo, and then they join up. So it's a really good way to get your name out there, and it's easy. Here's the best part. There's no minimums on orders. Doesn't matter if you have a huge gym or you're just starting out. You want to use your members and some branding to help spread the word. Doesn't matter if you buy 5 or 500. They all cost, how about this? Low price, $40. That's where it starts. So they did this to help the small gym owner, and they are your big resource. So go get. It's real easy. You don't even have to put up the money. As soon as you order them, take 7 days to make them, then they send them to you. How about that? So go to their website, forathletics.com, and click on co-branding in the menu, okay? For Athletics, that's F-O-U-R, athletics, ATHLETICS.com, forathletics.com. Click on co-branding in the menu. Get yourself some of the Omni leggings, the 7/8 Omni. It's a rise up, high waist. Okay. And then, let us know, because if there's 10 of you, I'm going to look good. But I need to talk to you about something that is important and can change your life. That's right. I'm going to change the way you smell. You might stink, especially when you come out of the gym. You probably do. I'm not going to lie to you. And people don't tell you, but you do. So get yourself some deodorant. And like me, you're probably very health-minded and oriented. You might be a bit of a hippie like me, where I don't like putting stuff on my body or in my mouth that I don't know what it is, if you know what I'm talking about. I like stuff that is, pretty natural. It uses very few ingredients, and that's why I've changed my deodorant to native deodorant. My wife started using it. She fell in love with it. I'm using it. And they are a company that cares about you, cares about the environment, they care about the world. They want everyone to smell good. They're using safe products, and they're not using aluminum, parabens, or talc. They use, and you're like, well, what's that mean? Well, you don't want to use aluminum because it may be linked to some serious health ramifications, including breast cancer, Alzheimer's. So why don't you switch over to something like this? They use simple ingredients. They're using stuff like coconut oil, which is an antimicrobial, shea butter, which is a moisturizer and emollient, and tapioca starch, which absorbs wetness. Because a lot of people use talc. You don't want to use talc. I'm sure you've seen the commercials and stuff that's going on with talc. So use this and feel like you're fresher and you smell better, and it doesn't have parabens in it, and it's made in the USA. How about that? And they source it from thoughtfully from around the world. That's where they get the ingredients, and there's no animal testing, and there's free shipping and returns. You can't beat any of this, and it smells great. There's all kinds of different scents. Okay, they're baking soda free, and their scents they've got coconut and vanilla, which is the one that I like. They've got lavender and rose. They've got cucumber and mint. They've got eucalyptus and mint. You can get them right now, no risk. All right, how about that? No risk, because they're going to give you free returns and exchanges in the United States. If you subscribe now, 17% off. How about that? Actually, I think they're going to give you 20% if you go to nativedeodorant.com. That's 20% off. Nativedeodorant.com, and put in the promo code WODcast. So Native Deodorant. Do this. I swear you guys will all thank me. I don't swear, but I think. I promise you. I believe so. The other thing is they have a subscription. I think it's another 17% if you, it's much cheaper if you subscribe, and they send you the deodorant every 1, 2, 3, or 4 months. So just sign up with it. You know, how much deodorant do you use? If you're stinky, you're going to get it every 1 month. If you're if you just smell like the earth and you like that, then maybe every 4 months. But I don't know. I'm babbling. Just go to nativedeodorant.com and thank me later. WODcast as your promo.
So let me try to understand this myself, and also there might be some people out there that don't even know. I don't know much, but they know less than I do. You're saying basically it has. I'm trying to use an analogy. It's not about how much oxygen you're taking in; it's how it's coming out, and if it's coming through. Well,
it's how you're using the oxygen.
But if it's coming through your nose, you're able to.
You're controlling the CO2. Okay. So you're not allowing a lot of CO2 to offload, right? And so
you don't want a lot of CO2 to offload.
If I'm CO2 intolerant in my lungs, I have a trigger warning that's going off in my head telling me to breathe more. So when we're conscious, the only reason we take a breath is because of CO2. So you got chemo receptors, chemo referring to the carbon dioxide. You've got these receptors in your brain that are cross paths with a lot of things. And we'll just stick to work for now, but that signal, hey, take a breath, dude. Take a breath. Take a breath. Right. You need to breathe. It's not O2. It's not oxygen. So when you say you need more oxygen or you need more air, you don't need more air. You need to get rid of CO2.
Gotcha.
Now, so that means when I'm CO2 intolerant, I got to breathe more. So I feel like I'm fucking drowning when I'm working out.
So right? Are we trying to become CO2 tolerant?
Yes, we are.
That's what we're working on.
Now, take that and go, oh, free divers. Oh shit. Mm-hmm. There's a very CO2 tolerant human being.
Interesting.
Specialist, but CO2 intolerant. We'll talk about that too.
Sure.
There's something to take from every single piece of the world, or what I like to say in human performance is I actually think the freediving community is probably the most underutilized sport in human performance, because nobody's been looking at these people, and these people are doing things that are mind-boggling physiologically, yet they're not actually doing any real work other than respiration control.
And if you're listening, you don't know what free divers are. These are the guys that go down really, really deep underwater without oxygen.
They hold their breath and they dive 200 plus meters and then come back up, and they're down there for it's like 5 to 7 minute dives,
insanity.
Which most of us would, anyway, they've trained themselves to handle that, right? Mm-hmm. So in looking at that, well, what's going on? They're actually efficiently using oxygen to stay alive, where you and I would pass out,
right?
Because our oxygen levels would plummet. And we wouldn't have use of that because CO2 is telling us, and we just literally freak out, and we would inhale air.
Yeah.
Or we'd pass out pretty quickly, right? Because we're not trained to handle super low O2, right? And that's a whole nother story. But so this comes back to when I breathe and I'm working out, is when I'm CO2 intolerant, I breathe a ton. And if I'm CO2 intolerant and I breathe a ton, it's only easier for me to breathe when I go, because I'm offloading that CO2 and it just feels better. The unfortunate part of that is you're actually not using the oxygen. So when you're not using the oxygen, your body goes, no fucking problem. I will use sugar.
Interesting.
So I will put you into an anaerobic place in order to do that. So we're going to burn through your glycogen in order to fuel the system. So this is why it's a problem when every workout you do or I do that I'm burning through glycogen, because you're actually burning through a very limited resource that requires a stack or a influx of post-workout in order to make up for what's happening. And so this is a high-stress training.
When you said influx of post-workout, what do you mean? Just like...
Well, if I'm burning through glycogen, the fastest thing to do in order to replace that is to get more glycogen. What's the fastest way to do that? Sugar, bro. Why would... Goo.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gatorade.
Funny you say that. I read about Lance Armstrong when he trained for the New York City Marathon. He didn't train that much, and everybody was expecting a really incredible performance from him because he's Lance Armstrong. He won the Tour de France 7 times.
He ran a 3-hour marathon.
So they want to see him. I think he went like 250 or something.
He went he just went under 3 hours.
But he was, I guess is it glycolytic? Because he was eating a goo every mile to burn sugar the entire time, because he basically said that he didn't really do the training for it, and he knew he had the athletic ability to push.
Some of these guys, especially Lance Armstrong, because of look, you can be upset with Lance all you want. Yeah. I think he's a fucking genius. Yeah, he's a fucking prick. He was a fucking prick, and I would tell he knows that.
Yeah,
he was a prick to his teammates and to people.
Yeah,
but I think he's found his way.
Yeah.
He's made his amends or as best as he can, but they were geniuses.
Yeah.
They were working with the best in the world at what they were doing. Okay. Go ahead. Go research what they were doing for training. That wasn't easy. And what they were doing, they understood some of this stuff. They understood a lot of it, but we haven't heard of anybody who's utilizing breathing in the manner that we're actually using it right now.
But what I was getting to is that what he was doing because he wasn't able to.
He knew because he wasn't fit enough.
Yeah.
Here's what fitness is, dude. Aerobic capacity.
Right.
Don't confuse that with you've got to be so there's a very big difference here.
And I know people are listening, right? Going, how did Lance Armstrong not have the aerobic capacity for it? Because it's just like you take I could take the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy and take him out surfing, and he wouldn't be able to last with
totally
a 15-year-old kid that surfs
exactly.
every day.
And but he had some foundation for some stuff, and he did some running.
Tons.
But he knew he was going to be in a higher stressed or more sugar burning place because he wasn't as fit.
And we're talking about a 2 hour and 50 marathon, which is incredible.
Yes. But if you go look at what he was as a cyclist, he's the 2 hour fucking marathoner.
Yeah, he's the best in the world.
Right. So you look at this and it's what alls we're training in fitness is your aerobic capacity. How high can you actually push that aerobic level inside the construct of not going completely anaerobic? Because completely anaerobic is not a trainable thing. That's actually that's actually just a stress response. That's a high stress response. That's not the trainable thing. You don't, any sport, anything, what we're doing is trying to push that aerobic level of things.
Okay.
Other than the fact that we're lifting heavy weight for strength training.
So let's hit pause right here.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to think I'm criticizing CrossFit. I think CrossFit is evolving, and I've seen it in a lot of gyms where there's a lot more interval training, a lot more, like 1 minute of this, 1 minute break, 1 minute. Aren't we in CrossFit a lot of times in that anaerobic stress response training?
People go to classes thinking they may be training different energy systems, if you want to call it that, or you're doing different metabolic training, and they're not. Mm-hmm. They're not. That's what we see. They're training in one fashion to a large degree. And this isn't a blanket statement for everybody, but for a lot of people and what we're watching and what we've tested and what we're seeing is that, and this is look, this is the runner who's running outside. Like literally we watched probably 30 or 40 runners go by. And I would say, not here, but down in San Diego yesterday, I would say 3/4 of them had their mouths open. They were probably running 9 or 10 minute miles. Mm-hmm. That's not necessary. Mm-hmm. If it is, that's a problem. Like if it's necessary to open one's jaw at a slow pace at anything, then we've got a metabolic problem. And that's what we're saying. You're instantly flipping over your mechanically, and you saw what happened mechanically. Mm-hmm. I fixed you mechanically, even though we had you nasal breathing and there were all changes that occurred. Mm-hmm. And we'll look at this in a second with you. So this is why mechanics is so important, is because when I actually get into a better mechanical position, it actually allows me to breathe more optimally, right? And so that also allows me to get more access to what it is I need for my breathing. I got more access to my diaphragm. Then I've got a physiological response to how well am I optimizing my energy. We want to see somebody. I'm not saying we're just burning fat, and you'll see that with what some of my markers here will be, but we're saying that if you actually cross over into that anaerobic, completely anaerobic place, instantly or quickly, you've got problems. And this is where I've even seen this at the elite level.
But aren't you, I mean, isn't it like, let's say you go out and do Fran and you're in a total anaerobic space and you're a, let's say, competitive CrossFitter.
Yeah.
I'm not, but let's say you are a competitive CrossFitter. You do Fran, you do a 3.5 minute Fran, and you're just dying. Like you're pushing it. You've got the Fran cough. You're exhausted. You're collapsed on the ground afterwards.
That's actually heart failure. That cough.
We need to get to that because I want to talk about that. So then, you go back and do it again 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. And you push it again, and your body has adapted to it, and you are now doing 3 minutes instead of 3.5 minutes, and you're getting better and better. But you're getting better through this anaerobic kind of just pushing the shit out of yourself. Are you saying you're better to do that at an aerobic state and just constantly doing it aerobically, and your body's going to adapt, and you're eventually going to get to that fast time and stay in an aerobic state rather than an anaerobic state.
You would see, I could guarantee when like Chris Spieler was doing like those Frans, like look at how he's doing it. Look at how Rich operates. He's not going off at the beginning and blowing his wad.
Right.
Ever. Neither.
No.
Okay. Those are just two examples, but we've been able to do that and see that even with people like Tia. Like, I've seen a complete transformation in how Tia operates, winning 1 year from the next. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like we've seen her, we've tested her and shown that there's a massive difference what's going on metabolically and what she can control through that. Now, granted, I'd love to be able to get her to do more, but the fact is that she's probably not. But she's getting better at, she's pushing that aerobic capacity higher and higher. Mm-hmm. This is what happened with Lance. And this is, if you go read Tyler Hamilton's book, I forget the name of it, but he talked about all their training and what was happening and how they were doing it and when they were hitting stuff. You can go back and read about and listen to even announcers on the Tour de France when these guys were rolling, and they still do talk about it, but their lactate threshold was literally like in the 180s, right? Mm-hmm. And their max heart rate were like 190, mm-hmm. right? But they could drop into the 170s and 160s and be perfectly fine all day. What did we see with you at 137?
Yeah,
there's no fucking way you would last 20 minutes.
No.
Like you were gonna, and you don't. You feel like you hit walls, right?
Yeah.
Bro, that's all I'm saying. They know how to train. A lot of these people know how to train, but what we are seeing, and even at some of the elite level athletes, and this is a no-brainer, is that they're metabolically screwing themselves up. Mm-hmm. Really. Ultimately, and it takes a few years, but you'll do the damage.
Yeah,
and whether that shows up in tissue, or it's showing up in adrenals, or it's showing up in all this. Like, look, man, I haven't burned out from CrossFit and doing CrossFit, more than likely because I had a fairly large endurance aerobic background.
Yeah,
in fact, that was something that was brought to my attention by Greg himself.
Yeah,
when I first met him. Like, Greg understands this. This isn't a CrossFit problem. Mm-hmm. This is a men will die for fucking points problem.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. And in my situation, I went from doing a little bit of endurance before I got into CrossFit, like doing some triathlons and I ran some marathons and stuff like that. And I remember feeling like I was a much better CrossFitter. From doing that long, slow distance kind of work.
You were. But
then when I bought in and was so into this short interval, high intensity stuff, I was like, who needs the long, I'll get that from this, where it's like, no, I'll get better at this from doing that. And I think that was, it's like, what's the cliche? Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah, don't.
It has been kind of thrown out. A lot of people go, I hate running, or I hate this, or I hate that.
100%.
And I feel like I was a much better CrossFitter.
Do you know why you hate it? Because
it's boring?
No. No, because you're terrible at it metabolically.
Yeah.
Like you can't actually control it.
Yeah.
You know? So there's CrossFit was never designed to be just high intensity work.
Yeah.
Like it's high intensity, but look, there's doing a 7x1 deadlift and then doing a Fran and then I'm doing a 10K today.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that when you would look at the CrossFit main page and it would be like, today's workout, 10K. And you're like, oh fuck, I gotta go. And I love that about it. But then it became more of
the sport is not CrossFit.
Right.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
If you believe differently, you don't understand CrossFit.
Right.
You just don't.
Right.
Nonetheless, the sport of fitness is very different from CrossFit as by definition and what it was defined as in the beginning.
Right.
Get off take CrossFit out of this, man. You can put this in the endurance world. Mm-hmm. You can put this in any sport you want to. I've looked at track sprinters. I've looked at world class. Mm-hmm. I've looked at watermen. I've looked at, pro whatever fighters, like down the line, let's go. And it's all the same, man. Mm-hmm. It's all the same. People aren't understanding how to train metabolically because they're picking up a heart rate monitor and going, oh, I'm going to grab a heart rate monitor and teach myself how to. You'll teach yourself some because heart rate can mildly be correlated with what's going on metabolically.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, and I can show you, like,
where my heart rate was.
I brought your heart rate back down and then we brought it back up and we changed exactly what was going on metabolically. Oh, well, then I guess heart rate's not right. No, it's not. It's late to the game. It's not. It doesn't, like, it can be indicative of some things, and let's not get rid of it.
Right.
But let's understand what's actually going on metabolically. And that is respiration, breathing itself is your body's number one priority. Number one. Okay. So the brain needs the body to breathe, and everything's working for the brain. Everything is. And so my senses are going off. And if my senses are telling me I've got to breathe more, well, you're actually metabolically screwing yourself. And so this is why nasal breathing is just a fundamental. That's just a fundamental layer. That's not a method. Like, if people think that going out and just nasal breathing is the game changer, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss the game.
Right.
You're going to miss the whole thing.
Right.
And so this is why you're seeing people jump on and go, oh yeah. Like, dude, I've been doing this nasal breathing and it's so awesome. And it's like, it's such a game changer. I'm like, yeah, I know. What else are you doing? Like,
so what is the game changer? What is,
as I'm alluding to, if breathing is actually, like, if breathing's the indicator of what's going on metabolically,
right?
Okay. Well, let's look at that. If I've got specific heart rate zones, or I've got things that are going on that are, let's just.
We're getting the camera so that we can put some of these
so
on.
If I've got specific changes that are happening metabolically, right?
Right.
And we know breathing is responsible. So if I offload, so look, if I had you sit here and do Wim Hof method, right? Or just some hyperventilating, let's just call it hyperventilating, not even Wim Hof method, right? Through your mouth. It would instantly show on this, our metabolic chart, that you were burning sugar.
Sure.
Carbohydrate. Okay.
And not to criticize Wim.
That has nothing to do with Wim's method.
But he doesn't do nasal breathing. It's just like,
he doesn't care because
he's like,
he's doing something totally different. And it has nothing to do. That's why I said, let's get off of Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Like, it's just hyperventilating, right? The problem with what we see, from a general population standpoint is that I would say 80% of I believe Buteyko method has this data, is that 80% of the populace is a chronic hyperventilator. So I've got 80% of the population not using oxygen well, yet we're concerned about what's happening nutritionally.
Yeah. And that's happening a lot with sleep also. I mean, with all the sleep. I mean, I think I'm a victim of that because I've heard stories. My wife's like, you almost died in your sleep last night. I heard you go like,
yeah. It's because your oxygen got super low because you were literally like probably holding your breath because your jaw was open. Yeah.
And I've heard of these guys that like tape their mouth shut to sleep. And I don't have the balls to do that.
Well, it's not going to like, you don't use duct tape.
Yeah.
Okay. There is actual special tape to do that. Yeah. And it's no big deal. But after we go over this stuff with you today, if you're actually committed to making changes, and here's the thing, it's going to be a kick in the balls. It's going to be an ego check. It's going to be like, oh, I can't actually go and train hard right now because I don't know how to control myself metabolically.
It's funny.
I can give you things.
I've had this assumption for 25 years.
Yeah. You're like, here's the thing. It's not the end of the world. It's like, what are we doing this for? Are you doing this to win, or are you doing this for your life
and be healthy?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, when everyone gets into CrossFit, the analogy I'm going to use is you realize you can get the bar from here to there fast, but to be really good at it, you've got to do it with perfect form so that.
Yeah, well, I don't know that perfect form is necessary.
Well, my point is, I'm saying you after a while in CrossFit, you go back and retrain.
Yeah,
you come into it and you're like, I can do this because I'm an athlete. But then you go, I want to be good at it. I have to start over, slow down, make sure I'm using good form. And this is kind of the same thing. It's like starting over again and slowing down.
It's just an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's not like, if you got to look at it as like starting over, that's kind of a shitty way to look at it. This is actually part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is that people, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody or have been in the past. We just put these things on, like we actually build glass boxes, and we create a very fragile environment. And I think that you know, there's and I'm just stealing this from Nassim and the book Anti-Fragile, but I think it's a phenomenal book. And we're really into the ability to understand what anti-fragility is, and what robustness is. And you know, we as a species have created a very fragile world. And in doing that, we screwed ourselves. Our financial system's fragile. The way we're developing our fitness is fragile. The way we actually developed our medical system is like, we look to the medical world for health. The medical world in the United States is not a health organization. They are an emergency situation, Band-Aid producing, necessary. I wouldn't be alive without it, and I'm grateful for it. But the fact of the matter is, they are not. They have nothing. And they should not be. They should not never have been put on their shoulders. That they are not a health organization.
Yeah.
Right. But if we're actually going to want to understand health and what's going on, we better start looking at things like what we're looking at. And the fact of the matter is from the get go with you today.
Yeah.
The get go, you went anaerobic. And you didn't even feel that. You literally were like, "Oh no, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm just warming up." Yeah. No, you're not. You're beyond warmed up. You're actually pretty, you're going to be chasing something that you can't right now. Like it's the dog chasing its tail at that point. Once you've popped. It's kind of done.
So basically, when you are mouth breathing, you are anaerobic. When you are,
to a large degree. Now you could control it, but why would you want to go like, right? When you've got, like, look, the nose is designed, like literally by design, your nose is designed with your respiratory system in mind. The entire thing.
What about somebody who's got like, broke their nose a number of times? And are you one of those guys?
Look at my nostrils.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Who hit you? That was a good one.
That was water polo. Like, I had my nose busted in water polo. I had it broken out of water polo. So I've had my nose busted. I've had my nose busted twice. My septum is deviated. I've heard every excuse in the world as to why people can't do nasal breathing. It's bullshit. You just don't want to check your ego and get out of your glass box. Like, that's it. And you are literally lying to yourself from a physiological and biological standpoint of what your fitness actually is if you can't actually maintain nasal breathing through most of what it is you're doing.
So, but I've heard people that say, when I try to nasal breathe, I get anxiety because I feel like I'm not.
You're CO2 intolerant, and you don't know how to deal with something that is actually a very trainable part of your physiology.
So that's what we're going to get into, how you train it?
Yeah. Like, so first let's look at what you're tested. All right. And then I'll show you what happened with me.
Okay. So let's explain what you did. Brian hooked me up to a
metabolic cart.
Okay.
Okay. The PNOE device, which is PNOE, device, and PNOE Analytics. And they are a metabolic cart company. They developed a metabolic cart, the first one that is a portable unit that is actually medical grade. And we are working with them to try and understand a number of things, and respiration is one of those things, and developing a breath assessment through this metabolic cart is going to be one of those things as well. But the first time these guys came out and set this up with me, both the owners came out, and they came out and, were absolutely stunned at what I was able to do from a respiration standpoint, because they didn't think that respiration, like controlling respiration, could actually change things. And what I did was I did some mouth breathing versus nasal breathing, some controlled nasal breathing, some, all this stuff. And they literally were seeing me making metabolic changes.
Up here because it's being weird. Yeah.
So they were seeing
like up here. Don't. Oh, yeah.
So seeing metabolic changes that they hadn't seen. And then the big one was the recovery one where I was able to drop it. But I've been doing this for like 5-6 years now. So I know how to play. I've really learned how to, change some things with myself metabolically. So if we look at your test, so here is a carbohydrate.
Here, switch with me. This mic's being weird.
Okay. So if we look at your test, and this is actually just us having you warm up.
Yep.
You started your warm up, and what we see here is carbohydrate in blue and fat in red.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. And so this is based on what's happening through your respiration process. And as you can see,
so this isn't Republican Democrat.
No, this is not
polling.
No. And so what we see is right about.
So carbs are blue, red's
100 seconds in.
Yep.
You completely dropped out from fat burning
and went anaerobic.
There is absolutely no fat burning going on.
Holy
and went completely
shit.
Like we should be seeing red in here. Okay. Right. So you're absolutely blue. And then I had to flip you into nasal breathing.
Is this because I ate a bag of Starburst before I
Did you?
No, I did. I had 2 last night, though.
No.
The hotel I'm staying in has them at the front desk.
I mean, it might have some effect to some degree, but not like this. This is like metabolic control, right? This is just you not like. And so what we did was we actually we controlled your breathing about 5 minutes in, right?
Okay.
And so that's when I had you flip into nasal breathing. And you can see the carbohydrate still be here, but it's starting to go down, right?
Right.
Then at the end here, you start to see the fat burning come back in. Then I had you stop right in here, then start back up, and we got you to burn fat with the carbohydrate. So now we can see this, right?
Interesting.
Okay. This is what you should be doing.
Wow.
Okay. And so when we go look at that, you can see here fat burning. So how many kcals a minute I'm doing with fat, how many I'm doing with carbohydrate, your work, your heart rate, all of that. We had to lower your heart rate down to like 115, 120.
Wow.
In order to get you back to burning fat.
So that's like walking.
Yeah, right now it's going to be. But I'm actually going to give you stuff to do to increase CO2 tolerance, which is playing a large role in this because of your speed of breath. Because you were just breathing nasally based off of what your brain was signaling to you to do. Like if I were to actually force you to go, all right, you get one breath every 5 seconds, in and out, 2.5, in for 2.5, out for 2.5. You'd start freaking out pretty quick and have to bring that down to probably where we're seeing your heart rate at 115 to 120.
Okay.
All right. That's going to force you to actually keep more CO2 in there, but it's going to make you feel like you're not only heating up, but stressing out or freaking out a little bit, but it's training you for CO2, but it's also kicking off. Remember how I was saying we got to kick we want to kick off more of those oxygen molecules. Well,
right.
This is yoga.
So
here's a 5,000-year-old practice in your face of, hey, you're going to take an inhale through your nose into a position, then you're going to exhale out of your nose to another position. And we're going to show you some positions you're pretty fucking unconnected in. And that's going to make your breathing go up because it's stressful, right? Control your respiration because what we're trying to do is get that oxygen, all that oxygen kicked off that red blood cell to make it bioavailable to the tissue because the tissue will actually open up more when it's got oxygen in it.
Interesting.
Stress tissue is using sugar. Oh.
Yeah. So when I'm sort of getting this where the tolerance of the CO2, it's like you're talking about the free divers, but
yeah,
when you are out of oxygen. Say when you're surfing, you get held down on a wave, and all of a sudden you go into
how long have you been under?
Just a few seconds. I mean, you're like 6-7 seconds, and
you're not out of oxygen.
You're not.
You're not.
So you're not CO2
tolerant, out, and your brain is telling you to breathe because you need air, and that is carbon dioxide. Your brain's connection to carbon dioxide, and the bottom line is there's no reason for you to panic.
Right.
How long can you hold your breath for, dude?
Like a couple minutes even now.
So why would you need to breathe in 7 seconds?
Because I feel like when you paddle for the wave, you're using a lot of energy.
Some energy.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
You pop up.
Yeah.
You go down the wave. You're using energy as you're riding the wave, and all of a sudden when you fall, it's like you've done a sprint and then you go to hold your breath. It's a lot more difficult than if you just taken a deep breath and hold your breath. I mean,
you're playing games with your mind is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so when you start to talk to people like, like a Billy Kemper or Shane Dorian, or, I've listened to stuff with Shane. I haven't really talked to him about this stuff, but, like Laird or, Mark Healy.
Yeah.
What happens when that happens is that they're actually prepared.
Right.
They, do breath work and they do stuff for breath holding and all of that stuff. Some of them don't,
Albie, my buddy Albie Lair doesn't do anything. Yeah. He just is a freak.
They play a game when they get held down.
Yeah, that's what I do
literally
now.
And it's like, I'm at a barbecue or I'm at this thing and I get things prepped and then I put the meat on the grill and and they're like, and before you know it, you're popping up and you're totally fine.
Right.
Right. And big wave surfing is much different from the type of surfing we do. But, so let's just quickly, I want to show you something. So here, this is like this was a 20-minute test that we were doing, or a 30-minute that we were doing in order to show the difference between nasal and mouth breathing. Right. And as you can see in this test, I was doing 200 watts. Remember, we had you at 100 watts.
This is you?
Yeah, this is me.
Okay.
So I was at 200 watts. Mm-hmm. This is cruise control for me. The beginning of this is mouth breathing. And you can see how the red drops with mouth breathing. Mm-hmm. Then it went into nasal for 5. And then it went into mouth for 5, where it drops. And then nasal for 5, right? Mm-hmm. Then I switched it over at the end of this to a full nasal, to where I can get at 200 watts up to purely I'm not even.
How did you do that differently? That you stayed at the same watts?
Yeah. Watts didn't change.
And how did you? Change. But you were going nasal, mouth, nasal, mouth, nasal, mouth, nasal, and then at the end you went nasal. Why was that any different than the other ones?
I used a controlled pattern at the end. Like we stayed at 200 watts, but I used a control pattern at the end in order to flip this. So I can control what's happening metabolically.
Wow.
Anybody can. But what do you want to learn? What do you want to train?
So what kind of pattern? What would the pattern be?
A very controlled pattern. Like, this is stuff we've built called the GEAR system, which is our energy system control program, which teaches people how to go from a 1-to-1 and equal in, equal out to like a faster, to even a faster, to a like what gear I'm in type of scenario, so that I can actually control things. This was 200 watts.
Right.
This isn't a hard thing for me to do. I ride a lot. I do a lot of work, right, on the bike. That said, I can very much control that, much like I can control metabolically what's happening right now. So us talking right now, we're burning through more carbohydrate because we're offloading carbohydrate. We're offloading CO2. So we're triggering that carb response. So, but if we were to just sit here and I were to go, you will see, and we've seen it on a metabolic cart, dink, purely burning carbohydrate. Then I can switch it over to, or just calmly.
It scares me when you look at me like that.
Yeah, right. Like I'm looking in your eyes. I can control all of this, and so what we've really mapped out is how to start to control that through work and what's happening. And I've got an endurance event, or I've got a marathon, or I've got a CrossFit like I've got the CrossFit Games or regionals that I'm competing in. Oh, what would be best for me? Here, let me ask you. You got 3 workouts day one at the CrossFit Games or regionals, whatever. I guess we're not doing regionals anymore, but you've got, whatever. You're at a competition. You've got 3 workouts day one. Is it going to behoove you to blow through all that carbohydrate or to burn through the fat more?
But when you're lifting heavy weights, it's severely anaerobic, isn't it? I mean, it's like when you're
most certainly
you're doing 10 thrusters in a row. I don't care what weight you're going at. You're going to.
I would beg to differ that you can actually, an elite level CrossFitter can maintain a very, very good aerobic level with doing multiple thrusters. Wow. Now, when that weight goes up to a very heavy 3, 5, 7 rep, max rep, that changes in anaerobic activity. But how quickly are you getting back to aerobic? So that's controlled through respiration.
So you're saying you're going to bounce out of it.
Yeah.
But you're going to just try to get back into it.
There's a time and a place
possible.
for mouth breathing.
Yeah.
And it is heavy weightlifting.
Yeah.
It is heavy exertion.
Yeah.
But you need to understand that cost and what it comes with it. And that's what those gears are for, is to understand, oh, I just went gear 5. I need to get back to like gear 2, 3 in order to maintain myself, or I'm just finished my workout and I've got to work out in 3 hours. What should I be doing? Well, you should probably be downshifting, down regulating yourself, getting your body to actually downshift so that you can recover quicker, getting to burn more, getting to use more oxygen versus I'm cooked and I'm just like breathing and talking and hanging out with people and on my phone and pushing off this high sympathetic state. And like that's the worst thing you could be doing for yourself. Versus downshifting after you go do a show, right? Like the moment you finish a show, after you've taught, like if you go and talk to the fans or the people that are there, it's after you've done that to go and do hey, I'm going to go do some breathing. I'm going to do a session of breathing that I know is going to work for me. Maybe it's on the app, right? Hit it and go through that process so that you can actually get your body to start to recover and get back into fat burning. You want to be that is how, like, oxidative is how we function. Oxidative is in burning fat. When we burn carbohydrate, that's our stress responder. That's what we're doing in a high stress situation. That's limited.
That's my whole life.
I know. Well, so in building that, and you can actually see that I was burning fat the entire time through this, even when I was mouth breathing, because my CO2 tolerance is fairly high at this point.
Would you say this is a huge cause of something like anxiety? That people are experiencing anxiety because they are...
We know it's a part of the equation.
Yeah.
We know it's a part of the equation. The thinking and putting ourselves in boxes, and these fragile boxes is part of it. I think is the big part of it. Like, my convenient lifestyle that I'm never exposed to anything harmful, like fear, like all of that. Like, but you build up this high sympathetic response. Most of people's days are about these high sympathetic places and being there and staying there, and versus and predicting what's going to happen. Like you can't predict shit. Nobody can predict anything. Nobody predicts anything. That's just your ego literally going, trying to control a situation that we can't control. And therefore not making us fragile. That literally will make you more fragile. Like that will, and that fragility that you're creating is a symptom of what your response is to, like, you're creating a response to CO2. So I just respond poorly to something, it's like, hey, Eddie, I'm going to have you hold your breath out of the water right now. We'll relax and I'm going to have you hold your breath. Then we're going to get in the pool real quick and we're going to do calm down, same thing. And I'm going to have you go underwater, but I'm going to hold your arm and we're going to hold your breath as long as you can. What do you think the difference is going to be?
Yeah. Much more stress.
You're not going to hold your breath as long underwater.
Yeah.
And it's that box we put ourselves in,
right.
And this is where people like operators or, you see special forces units or, even select military people, SWAT or even law enforcement, whatever, that learn to deal with stress well and put themselves in situations. They're dealing with this. Go look at the freediving community, waterman community. What are they doing? They're literally connecting that high fear or that high scared response, putting themselves in a shitty situation, and then developing a trigger response to higher levels of CO2. So and they didn't even realize that's what they're really doing. Right. But I'm connecting my mental or my psychology to my physiology and the response that's happening physiologically, because of the only mechanism when I'm conscious is to breathe is CO2. Then I might as well train that. So when I start training that within what I'm doing for a workout, then I'm actually starting to train my ability to use oxygen more efficiently in what it is I'm doing, therefore creating a more robust or less fragile athlete.
So let's get into it. I don't want to give away all your juju, because I mean, obviously this is a program that you're running, and if people want to get involved, what do? Where are they going to get this?
Well, we have an Art of Breath course, a workshop we teach. We do that in person, and we have it online.
Okay.
It is an in-depth into all of this stuff. It's the 101. We'll have a 102 probably in September.
And so what website is this on?
Powerspeedendurance.com. Okay. And then we also have a bunch of breathing resources on powerspeedendurance.com under the Learn tab, which will allow people to go even deeper, including into the psychology of things like, hey, I deal with anxiety or depression or whatever. Right. Yeah. Like we've got portals into stuff like that. And we're actually doing work right now, within this domain to, understand it even deeper. But we're very interested in that. And we think it's the state part of it is actually the more important part of human performance. But we can train the physiology to get people to buy in and go, and then the inevitability, I'm a calmer person. I'm a better person.
It's funny. I've been talking that mind body thing that you're kind of talking about. I've been talking to a lot of doctors about that recently. Because I talk to so many doctors because I'm just a nutcase, and I love, I said to my wife the other day, I go, I don't think I'm a hypochondriac. I think I like medical issues because I'm pragmatic and it's like a puzzle to me. Oh, I got this. Let me see how I can get rid of this. And let me see what I can discover and figure out and try these different methods on myself. And I find a lot of my CrossFit friends are kind of the same way. Oh, I tore this, or I strained this, or I have this kind of cold. I'm going to fix it. Yeah. And it happens often. But in talking to a lot of doctors, I'm hearing a lot of after they talk they kind of talk themselves into a hole where they're like, well, we don't really know. Yeah. And I've started to say, how much of this is possibly mind?
Well, first, what do doctors do? They treat something with medicine. Yeah. That's what they're trained to do.
Yeah, true.
Okay. So they're using a chemical that's mimicking something that your own chemistry actually takes care of. Turtle is loving his mom right now.
Hi, Aaron. How are you? Right. Good to see you.
How
you been?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Are those your pups?
Yeah, they are. Were they barking at you? Yeah. They're very protective. But what you see how much a placebo effect works.
Yeah.
And you see how much, so often
this is why we look, I'm not saying doctors are bad.
No, me neither.
No, doctors are great. Doctors are important. They are an integral part of something that has nothing to do with health. It has to do with to get you back to the ability to actually take care of yourself in a healthy way. Right. You've got to go understand that. You've got to go. That's the idea of experimenting and trying to figure shit out. It's like, look, if I've got to go on an antibiotic cycle, well, that is kind of a last ditch effort for trying to solve a problem that, from a bacteria or something, an infection that's going on. Right. Well, the same person who just prescribed you something for that is also the same person who's trying to tell you to go exercise and do stuff. That's not what we should be doing. This is a last resort person who should be just dealing with, hey, we're going to need to put you on antibiotics. Here's what that looks like and what it's going to look like afterwards. Nobody's saying what that looks like afterwards. Oh, by the way, your gut's going to be a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your gut's shot after this. So what should you should be eating a lot of sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, things like that.
I just went through it. With a stomach issue and indigestion, and I almost went down the wrong route with the doctors.
Yeah.
And then I talked to enough guys and read some Chris Kresser stuff and fixed it the right way. And it really didn't take much more than apple cider vinegar.
Careful of the head. Yeah.
But Brian's pit bulls were fighting like mine were. We both had dog fights yesterday.
Yes.
Unintentional. So anyway, we got a couple questions. So they can find it at Power Speed Endurance, and and then I got to get a plan, figure out what I'm going to do to get myself.
I'll set you up. I will set you up, but you've got to commit.
I will commit.
Hey, Turtle,
because it's been too many years of not having that capacity and feeling like I'm just redlining too much.
Yeah.
And that it's been detrimental. So I do want to kind of back up and try to fix that and straighten that. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
I just posted this on the way up here.
Yep.
So I didn't get many, but these guys are big listeners. Gordon Wagner, who's like, Gordon, you're becoming number one. He wants to know, is there something more painful after finishing than the acid bath from the Dubai Fitness Championships? Can you convince Eddie to do said painful workout? Do you know that workout?
No.
I don't know it either. I'm going to have to look that up. I tried to look up the Wodapalooza workouts and couldn't find them all. Their website.
I'm not interested in.
I'm not much either.
I've been in here almost 15 years. So any of this shit is just like you're literally talk and it's going on.
Yeah. I went on yesterday to just kind of see what was going on with Wodapalooza and see what the workouts are. Cause I always like to see about Hunter McIntyre and he loves to cherry pick and go, I would have won this one or I would have won this one. So I wanted to see how it was programmed and how well he would have done. But I don't know what the acid bath was. I'll look it up. The Lean Grizzly said, in strength, speed, endurance, you lay out a program that includes 3 heavy compound movements a week. For those of us that are coming from a strength background, like a CrossFit or a power athlete, but are transitioning into more endurance sports, is it necessary to continue the strength work? Are there specific weights you want your endurance athletes to hit under the bar? Like 1.5 body weight squat, body weight bench, etc.
I would say that the strength and conditioning work is just as important as the endurance work.
Right.
And the reason being is that if you're not actually a specialist or somebody who's like an elite athlete,
right,
that doesn't apply to you just because you were a strength athlete. Like you need to be using the strength and conditioning more as a conditioning type thing. And keeping the strength, like doing strength is actually helping with the recovery from the stuff that you're terrible at. Like there's literally a mechanism in place that's like, if I go do a heavy endurance workout in the morning, later that afternoon, I might be able to get away with doing some heavy deadlifts. And those heavy deadlifts are actually going to complement what I did in the morning because it's going to kick some things, including like testosterone, maybe some growth hormone, things that are actually going to help from a mechanism standpoint to speed up my recovery from the other workout or doing strength the next day. And that's why we actually have things the way we do.
So saying that, like he's transitioning, which sounds like something I'm kind of doing myself because I look at like, why do I do CrossFit? I want to surf, which is it's a combination of speed, power, endurance. I want to go mountain bike. I want to go on long hikes. I want to be able to maintain that. I'm not doing much power oriented stuff. I'm not playing football. I'm not doing these things. And I also am not a competitive CrossFitter. So I'm looking at changing my workouts from doing these CrossFit kind of, the 5 to 7 minute workouts to more of the strength workouts. And then with this breath work and kind of trying to work on my metabolism and my engine, I'm going to be doing more long, slow distance or interval work or what?
No, you'd be doing some metabolic work, like some. No, sorry, metabolic work. So, you would be doing some more endurance cardio type stuff probably 3 days a week, and then strength and conditioning 3 days a week.
That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought that's
it's going to be a kick in the nuts because it's like, oh, I'm not doing much. Like I'm not going very hard or I'm not very fast right now.
Right.
No, you're not.
Right.
Are you willing to see what happens with that? You can look at guys like James Newberry, Zeke Grove, Con Porter, Scott Panchik, Tia Toomey-Claire.
These are all people you've worked with.
At CrossFit elite level.
Yep.
Danny Horan.
Oh, I know. I work out at James Newberry's gym in Australia, and I see him doing your stuff all the time.
We changed how they handled the high intensity stuff through the endurance stuff.
Interesting.
And so it's a complete game changer. Now, I do think, once or twice a week you can go and blast, man. You just got to know when those blasting days are.
Yep.
And you can't do that multiple days in a row. And that's the problem, is that so many people think that they can go do that many days in a row. They're actually, like, even though you're making some progress, you're not actually like
making
being
yourself a better,
you're not actually doing it efficiently.
Yeah.
Like you could be doing it much better.
Sure.
Like, and your physiology is telling you that. And so this is where the breathing actually really comes into play. And when you start to look at things like HRV, like your I'll bet you most of these people,
HRV?
Heart rate variability, which a lot of people, I'm not a big fan of, but a lot of high level folks like to use heart rate variability to give themselves scores on what they should be doing the next day. So like if you did an HRV score after you did a gnarly day of training, I'll bet the next day you're going to have a pretty low score. And that low score is indicative of you actually needing to go and take it easy. Right. And so nobody's seeing that, but we are solving that issue through breathing, through understanding breathing, because when we give people breathing protocols, when you can't actually get through that breathing protocol that I gave you, let's say we had you do the 1-1-2-1, right? But you're doing it on a 6-second inhale, 6-second hold, 12-second exhale, 6-second hold, right? You usually can do that for 10 cycles, which is something normal that we would give to somebody in the morning, right? And based on what I just said about HRV and you going and doing some gnarly workouts and being cooked, and the next day you wake up and you go to do that 6-6-12-6 and you can only do it twice. What's going on?
I'm not recovered.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Your body, your respiration. And this is how we start to clue people into, oh, now am I stuck and glued to this pattern of understanding? Like I've got to go do this basic pattern. No, do it for some time to understand it. But as that grows, you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to feel a specific way, and you're going to start to notice your breathing. And you're going to start to notice whatever it is you're doing through your breathing, whether it's picked up, whether it's labored, this is literally the indicator of what's going on all this stuff.
It's funny. A lot of the people I've been talking to, and I've had a lot of experts on recently, I'm getting this kind of same mentality. And I keep talking about the evolution of fitness where, CrossFit was, we've got all these brilliant minds together and we've deduced that this is what's best for you. And I'm not saying that we are saying CrossFit's bad, but it's evolved. And all these experts have gone off to go, hey, maybe less is more, or maybe we need to not periodize, but we need to, think about peaking and think about like just smarter training where it was for
you've got a competition, a competition that literally has no off season.
Yeah.
You're in a recipe for disaster, but whatever. I mean, but let's I make no mistake. I'm not about just going easy.
Yeah.
I actually think you should be doing some pretty intense work.
Yeah.
But you've got to get yourself there.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, like, I can operate at 95% of max heart rate just breathing through my nose.
Yeah. But Kelly and I talked about this the other day. When you used to look at the CrossFit website before it got into the CrossFit Games, the website had a lot of days that were somewhat of a recovery day.
Yeah.
They weren't, you were doing maybe, not a recovery, but a 1 rep max or something that you weren't out there exhausting your lungs and giving yourself a Fran cough.
Yeah.
Which I have to get into. I want to talk about that. One last question, and it's not very relevant, but and you can probably just find this on Brian's website. But John Ware, he always writes in, so I gotta give it up to the guys who are big supporters of the show. He wants to know any tips for getting a decent workout on the indoor trainer for us fools that have to suffer through the winter. Don't be a pussy. Get out there outside, put on some snowshoes and run around.
No, I mean, I've been on the C2 bike for like almost 3 weeks, man, because it's been pissing pouring, rain up here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of workouts.
Do you have them on your site at all?
Yeah. Okay. There's a whole bike, we have a whole bike section.
I've done some of Brian's workouts, and you will get a good workout. Trust me.
Yep.
It'll be weird. You won't know what you're doing, and then at the end, we were talking about the Fran cough. We've talked about it so many times on here. I've had so many people give a different theory on it. What do you think it is?
Well, it's not a theory.
What do you think?
It's not my theory.
What is it?
I looked into it. It's called heart failure. It's not heart failure like you think heart attack. Your heart can't keep up with the amount of blood that's actually being pumped, and your lungs being close to that. So it's going beyond your heart's ability to actually move blood through.
I assumed it was something like that.
So that's why you have metal mouth. Like, that's why you taste metal, is you're tasting blood, because that blood is building around the heart and the lungs, and your trach, like your trach and bronchioles and everything are picking that up. So that's why you taste like blood.
That can't be good. That can't be a good thing.
It's not something you should be doing a lot, but I don't necessarily think that it's not horribly bad.
I got it one time that I had it for it was like 24 hours. Where I was just like,
yeah.
And that's when I went, I don't think I'll ever go that hard again in that workout. And people can go,
well, you don't need to go that hard.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But unfortunately, that's where it's like, you got to take that process of build over time. Right?
So when it comes to wearing like a heart rate monitor, and you find the whole idea of finding your max heart rate, which is 220 minus your age, blah, 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 whatever it is, what I always wondered was, that's just an idea.
It's a guess.
Right.
There's actually a better, if you can get your resting heart rate, and then there's a whole nother formula that involves your 220 minus your age, and then your resting heart rate, and then that'll actually give you your max.
But when you're working out, and let's say you're doing Fran, if you're monitoring your heart rate, you're at your max heart rate.
You done right? Yeah, you're at your max heart rate at the end of it.
Yeah.
Not the beginning of it.
Right. So at the end of it, you're at max heart rate. Isn't that where you find your max heart rate?
You could, or you could do a test. Yeah. I mean, we could do it.
Yeah. So you find your max heart rate. Is there a point where your heart rate when they say max heart rate, your heart rate will not go past that, or can you?
No,
it's just,
no. Yeah, you'll see that, and you can see that in testing where people hit their max, and then they actually, they can still put out more power.
Right.
And that's where their muscular system's taking over from their cardiovascular system.
Okay. That was my question.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
that's what's actually going on with a lot of the kids or people in CrossFit, is they're training their muscular systems to do a lot of the work that their heart, their cardiovascular system isn't.
But that's not a good thing.
Not long term. No.
Okay.
No.
Because that's where
you're not training effectively. But that's not CrossFit.
Right.
Again, that's not I can literally show you an endurance people
doing the same thing.
Same shit.
Well, I feel like I've been doing that my whole life, and that's
and I could show you people in MMA, and I can show you people in yoga.
Yeah.
I can. You go watch it. You go into these things, you see it, and the jaw drops, the breathing picks up. You're just like, oh, like that. We got it.
Well, I find this fascinating. I can't wait to try to apply it and commit, and maybe I'll do it for a certain. What do you think is a certain length of time that I've got to commit where I'm going to see a difference?
Well, let's at least go 4 weeks and see what we can get in 4 weeks, and then we can continue to go. Look, man, I really committed to this for 4 weeks, just nasal breathing. And then that was when we started establishing, there's these patterns. And then it was like, okay, how hard can I go? How good at this can I get? And one of the keys, one of the guys early on in this was James Newberry.
Yeah.
And I literally had him doing some nasal breathing stuff on the assault bike a few years ago.
I used to see him on it.
Yeah. And he literally couldn't get his heart rate above like 138 nasal breathing. And within a month, he was at 170. And he's like, mate, I could go all day at 170 nasal breathing. And I'm like, I know you can. And we've seen what happens.
That's great.
That's what we just showed.
Well, I'm going to be down there in Adelaide on, when am I going? February 15th. I will be there. I will be there for 1 month doing the Adelaide Fringe Festival.
Taking your family?
February 15th to March 17th. Come see my shows, and I will be working out at Mode, which is James's gym. I'll be working out. I think he's going to co-host the show with me sometimes when we do this. So it'll be interesting to do, and I'll do this while I'm down there.
Yeah, cool.
And see what I can do and see if I can make some changes. And hopefully, guys listening to the show learn from this, and we can. I'm a comedian, but I hope I'm making you guys, giving you good information. You're getting healthier, getting faster, stronger, whatever, more virile. You're pumping better in the bedroom. I don't care. I just hope I'm helping you out because I'm a douchebag. And if I can get back a little, look, the whole microphone goes staticky when I say that because it's like, no, shut up, Eddie. Get back to the jokes. I want to thank Brian MacKenzie for his time, his knowledge, his wisdom, his hospitality, and check out his stuff because I think I think he's again on the cusp of something great and something that's really going to be able to evolve fitness again, like I keep saying. And thank you guys for listening. Where can they check you out other than it's Power Speed Endurance?
PowerSpeedEndurance.com.
PowerSpeedEndurance.com.
Yeah, and they can just find me under Brian MacKenzie.
Yeah, and on Instagram, _B MacKenzie, is it?
Yeah, Brian MacKenzie.
_Brian MacKenzie. And I will be uploading some videos from this onto the Facebook, onto the Instagram that is at WODcast Podcast now, not the other one. It's at WODcast Podcast. And
thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, and check out our Patreon and check out my show schedule at eddyift.com. I am in cities all over the world. I'm going to
worldwide, prestige, worldwide.
I am worldwide.
Prestige, worldwide.
And when I say worldwide, I mean Australia and Canada. Now I've got dates coming up in, I don't know when this one's coming out in the 3 weeks. I'm probably already leaving for Australia or maybe catch me in Boston. And then when I come back, I've got Las Vegas. I've got St. Louis. I've got Chicago coming up. I've got, Florida, some dates in Florida. So check out all my dates, eddyift.com. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Thanks for all the really nice comments everybody's given me about the show continuing and all the good shit we're doing. I appreciate it, and have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Eddie.